Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tales from the Fandom. It is I, David, returning once again for this episode with Amber Calhoun. She is the wife of Brady Calhoun, one of my longtime friends going way back all the way to 9th grade. Brady was one of the huge influences in my life as far as early fandoms go, and even some stuff to today. Amber is really cool. We've got a lot of great stuff to talk about. We hit a lot of different things, and obviously, since we both know Brady, she's married to Brady, and I've known Brady since, again, like I said, 9th grade. There's a lot of joking on Brady. And as well, you might hear Amber's little sister jump in on the conversation from time to time. I tried to leave what I could in as far as her conversation. She was not on the microphone, but you can hear her just adding in some stuff during our conversation. So I hope you enjoy that. I do need to apologize for the audio quality. Both Amber and I were under the weather when we recorded this way back in March of this year. So we both were not feeling very well, but we'd already postponed it once, and then this time we went ahead and just did it. So obviously my voice was not the best. Her voice was not very well. You might hear some coughing and stuff. I did my best to get rid of what I could. Again, I apologize if it's something that just turns you off, and totally understand. But I really hope you give the episode a listen. It's a really fun look into just a friendship that I have with Amber and with Brady himself, and just their relationship as a fandom couple who sometimes disagree and sometimes agree on what fandoms they like. I also wanted to give a shout out to my patrons on Patreon. We've got 4 of them right now, so thank you so much to Rebecca Parker, who also had an episode on the podcast. Justin Zenger of the Zeng This podcast, who again had an episode on this podcast. The crew from Dungeons and Dragons, who are on an upcoming episode, which I'm really excited about because I got to record with the entire group. 2 of them were in Canada at the time, and 2 were over in South Korea. And by the time that you hear their recording, everyone will be back in Canada, which is really awesome. They're going to be back playing at the same table and recording their Dungeons and Dragons podcast. I also want to give a huge shout out to Brian Oxier. I really hope I pronounced your name right. Brian, please let me know if I didn't. He is one of the players on the You Meet in a Tavern podcast. He plays Carl with a K, and I love You Meet in a Tavern. I just have to say, I had their promo on the last episode, and I just wanted to give them another shout out. They made me laugh so much in one of their episodes that it was a good thing I was parked in car line waiting for my kids, because that's how funny it was. They are a great group of guys. I am so happy that I found their actual play podcast when I did and got in at the start of it, and I am just digging it. If you guys are looking for a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons actual play podcast, check out You Meet in a Tavern. I cannot recommend them any higher than what I already have just said. Right now, though, we are going to get to Amber, but first, just take a listen to a few other podcasts that are out there that might pique your interest.
Hey there, we're Dungeons and Dragons. Quick, what do we do here?
We're going to roll some dice,
make some terrible jokes,
toss in a wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man, and you've got a party!
It's so much pun. Sorry about that.
Yeah. We're Dungeons and Dragons, a D&D 5th edition actual play podcast where we are building a world through the collaborative storytelling that is Dungeons and Dragons.
we like to have fun,
Laughs.
thrills, and adventure.
Join us by subscribing to Dungeons and Dragons through iTunes or wherever you download podcasts.
Find us at dumbdragons.com.
Do you like sci-fi, AI, and technology? Do you enjoy going on tangents and down random rabbit holes of a subject? Then join me and my friends each week on Brokebot Mountain as some artificially intelligent people attempt to walk through a maze that explores themes of existence and free thought in sci-fi TV, movies, and books. The conversations are unique and bring an unusual perspective to the genre and can literally go anywhere. And we do mean anywhere. You can find us at blazingcariboustudios.com or look for Brokebot Mountain on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play, or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's guest is married to one of the other guests I've had on the show before, Brady Calhoun. Her name is Amber. She has to put up with all of Brady's shenanigans, whether it comes to fandoms that he's into or fandoms that he's not into, or, just normal stuff. She's joining me here, and I'm pleased to have you on, Amber. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And you're right. I totally have to put up with my annoying husband on all things.
On all things fandom or not fandom?
All things, period.
All things, period. So, how did you get into fandom, or was it Brady's fault that you got into so much nerdy stuff?
Okay, yeah, kind of half and half. Part of it, I was a Lord of the Rings fan to begin with. I read the books first. I was faithful and did that first. And then I had to have all my extended edition DVDs when they were on sale. I was like, ooh, like a giddy little schoolgirl, had to go buy them. But becoming an Uber fan was Brady's fault. Totally. He started telling me about Comic-Con, okay? And I was like, I was a newbie. I didn't know anything. So I was like, what is this? I'm like, why are you so excited to go to this? I don't get it. And so he's like, Amber. He goes, listen. He goes, what if all the actors and directors and stuff from Lord of the Rings and all that stuff were at one place and they would answer all your questions for you and you could get autographs and all of this and blah, 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 blah. And, he said Buffy and Angel and all that stuff. He's like, what if they were all there and you could see them and talk to them and all? He goes, how would that feel? I said, that would be so awesome. And he's like, that's what Comic-Con is. And I'm like, wow. And turned out I would see who was appearing at conventions and be like, oh my gosh, I want to go. I want to go see them. It's like, we need to go. So yeah, but mostly it was all him. It's all him. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are there fandoms that you guys don't agree on that you like more than he does or he likes more than you?
That's probably true. Let me see. He's more of a Trekkie than I am. I'm not really a Star Trek fan at all. I did see all the new movies, and I was mostly okay with them, but that's one that I'm not really on that side. And he's come to the dark side with Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. I've kind of pulled him to me, and and so now he's on my side for that. And so I don't know. I'm sure there are things that I like that he doesn't. I just can't think of any at the moment because most of them he pulled me into first.
Gotcha.
So, but
I understand that. So, when you read Lord of the Rings, how old were you?
I was, I want to say maybe, I know I was at least a teenager, probably in high school. I want to say I was in high school, maybe 17 or 18.
Okay.
Yeah. And I thought it was great because, I liked that kind of fantasy because it's hard to explain. I liked how they talked about where they were going on adventures, like they were marching through the grass and they saw all these majestic animals, and I was like, that's so awesome. I'm like, that's so cool. And then I watch the movie, be like, ooh, that's this and that's this. And when people say stuff and get it wrong, I'm like, no, that's not what it's called. Like they see an elephant and they're like, yeah, it's an elephant. No, that's an olifant. How do you know this? Because I read. But,
Because you read.
Because I know things.
Because you know things. Are you like Tyrion from Game of Thrones? I drink and I know things.
Yeah, and that's Brady's favorite line. But yeah, totally from a Lord of the Rings perspective, I do. I that would be me. I just say I know things. I don't really drink, but I could say I know things.
Now, who's your favorite character in Lord of the Rings?
Probably. I don't know. I really like Gimli because he's just so grouchy, but he's so funny. I mean, I just like how he's just like, he's all mean, and one moment he's like, we're going to do it this way, and da-da-da-da-da, and then the next moment he's like, but don't tell so-and-so that we're doing this, or that you just did this, Right. He's got the soft side, but he's also got the grouchy side, and I'm a grouchy person, but yet kind of sweet, too, so I kind of find the similarities there.
Oh my goodness. Do you have a favorite of the books that are out? Or, I mean, obviously there's not more coming out, but do you have a favorite out of the series?
I'm not sure. I really liked The Hobbit, to tell you the truth. I think it had a little bit more like action sequences, maybe not like totally action, but more things that were going on, like they were getting captured, they were getting chased by spiders, all this stuff that was happening. I was like, this is so cool, and I have a really cool hardback Hobbit book with pictures inside.
Okay. That
Brady bought me for my birthday like years ago, and I just think it's really cool to put them together and like, oh, that's so neat, and just, I don't know.
I know. I remember I got the box set way back, like back in probably the early 90s. They had like this nice box set, and The Hobbit was one of those books that even to today I can read it in probably like 4 or 5 hours because it's such a quick and easy read.
Oh yeah.
Compared to the other three.
Exactly, man. That'd like take forever to go through them, but they were good. But man, I'm like, whoo, they take a while.
You know what cracks me up is that you like the descriptions of, oh, they're walking through the grass, oh, they're seeing the animals, and I remember I had friends in college that would complain. They'd be like, he just keeps talking about all the blades of grass that they're walking through.
Aww.
Like, can he just get past the blades of grass and get them going?
See, I liked the detail. I liked to feel like I was there and to see what they were seeing and what they had to go through. I liked all the description. I thought that was cool.
Absolutely. Now, when the movies came out, were you crazy psyched about them? Were you?
Yes, I went to one of them. I don't remember which. I think it may have been Return of the King. I can't remember. But I went to one of them all by myself because everybody else had to work, and it was a day that I ended up being off. And I'm like, well, this is weird. I was like, but it's coming out, and I'm going to go see it. I was like, I have to go see it. And I remember being by myself, and I got there, and I ran into my pastor. That was weird. It was totally weird. But I did. I ran into him and his, I think it was his whole family. I was like, what are you guys doing here? They're like, we're going to see Lord of the Rings. I'm like, me too. So it's kind of weird. But I remember.
I remember I was in college at the time, and we crowded around someone's computer just to watch the Fellowship of the Rings trailer online. And we were like, oh my gosh, look at all of them. They're so awesome. They're climbing the mountain.
Well, that's how Brady is about trailers now. And but before, like when we would watch Lord of the Rings with friends, like we'd have a movie night, him and a friend of his would like ruin it for everybody else. They'd be like, let's fast forward and do the short version. and they'd get characters wrong. And I'm sitting there going, that's not true. And I'm sitting there going, you're ruining these people. They're not going to get the experience. And they just laugh and say, okay, so-and-so died and this happened. And I'm like, no. Having conniption fits while they're telling the story wrong.
I remember my wife, Michelle, she hadn't seen the movies at all until I showed them to her, and I had all the extended editions, and we went shopping that morning to get stuff for the entire day and just watched all 3 extended editions back to back.
Nice. That's about 12 hours worth of movies.
But yeah, I think it works out to be close to like 13-ish because
oh, wow.
Because Return of the King, I think, is like 4
you're right.
hours, 4:15.
By itself. Yeah. I think you're right. I think that one is longer.
Yeah, really long. with the 10 different endings, and everyone's like about to get up. I remember people started getting up from their seats when it was in the movie theater, and it's like, oh, nope, it's not over yet.
I know. I heard people complaining so much about the multiple endings. I'm like, well, you have to have all the bases covered. I know it is very ending heavy. I was like, but you got to cover it from all the other people's standpoint.
Absolutely.
You got to know what happened to them.
Yeah, there's only 15 main characters. You got to kind of say what's going on with them.
Yeah, and sum up and be like, hey, this is what happened with them. I was like, they went on to do this. You got to know.
Now, did you like how they broke The Hobbit into 3 movies?
I sort of did. I think it probably could have been 1 or 2, but I think they stretched it a little too much into 3 because they added the extra characters in there that weren't really there. Which, I mean, I did like it, but I felt it was kind of boring in places maybe because of it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I really liked them all, and I especially liked it with Smaug and Bilbo and everything, but I felt that there was just a little, I don't know, they drew it out a little too much for me.
Yeah, that is my problem is we saw the first movie in the theater. We didn't go back to see the rest of them because it's just so much, and I know that they pulled information from the appendixes in Return of the King to fill it out, and they had Radagast all over the place and all this stuff going on to to tie it into Lord of the Rings, but at the same time you're taking away, and I said it on another podcast with someone else. They had all those dwarves with the awesome distinctive costumes and beards, and each of them has their own cool little backstory, and you get 3. You get Fili, Kili, and Thorin, and that's it.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I was like, that's not cool. But the one thing I did like that was, I don't remember if it was the extended edition or if it was in the movie, that they actually started singing some of the songs.
Oh yeah, they sang them I think in all of the movies.
Yeah, and they were very. I was pleasantly surprised about that because I really liked it that they didn't make it cheesy and that it was very like I would imagine it would be in the book, sort of. But I really liked that part of it. But they made them way too long for me, though, otherwise. I was just like, I was like, you're adding too much stuff that I don't care about. I was like,
I do have to admit that when I read The Hobbit, I skip over the songs.
Yeah, I do now, because normally, I think when I would look at it, I was like, that's cool, but I want to go back to the story. But to see it in person, to see it on the screen was cool, though, to hear them sing it in those, deep voices.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Who's your favorite Hobbit?
Oh gosh, see, I want to say Frodo because I always thought he was cute, but probably Sam.
Yay!
Because I really like Sam as a character, so I think I'm gonna say Sam because he was, I don't know, I just really liked him because he was stern but yet so sweet and was willing to fight.
Absolutely, and he's
for what he wanted.
I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but someone told me that basically Lord of the Rings is basically Sam's movie. Sam is the hero.
Yeah, I saw that too. I read that recently or something. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of true. I'm like, Frodo really don't do much of anything but carry the ring and stuff.
That's all he does. He just carries the ring.
He just carries the ring and stuff and puts it on occasionally and makes stupid mistakes, man. But totally.
Did you have a favorite of the movies? As far as Fellowship or Return of the King, Two Towers?
Let me think. Probably the Fellowship. I think that's the one I've seen the most because I don't think I've seen Return of the King that many times as much as I've seen the first 2.
Okay.
But the first one I think has just always been my favorite. I guess just for that it's still a little more sweet and humorous, and they haven't really got to the total danger yet, so it's not all war and dark and a little sadder because everybody's off and split and doing their own thing. So I think I like that one because of the happiness of it, and I don't know, but I always like that one the best.
Yeah, it's not a total downer.
Exactly.
There's all the hope is sucked out of the world by the end of the movie, end of the trilogy.
Although one of my favorite songs in that movie is the one where Gandalf falls. And
Right.
everybody's crying. I'm like, I always watch that scene because it's so touching. I just love watching everybody get broke. I mean, it sounds horrible. You like watching people cry? No, but it's so sad and so touching that I just like to watch it when it comes up and the music just fits it. I'm like, that's so pretty. I'm like, it just makes me so sad.
Why don't you like watching people cry?
For real. I was like, doesn't it move you to watch people cry?
Oh my goodness. Okay. And I imagine that you have. Do you own the Hobbit extended editions?
I think I do. I'm trying to remember because this time around he bought them digitally.
Okay.
I don't have them on DVD, but I think we do have the extended edition of those as well. I want to say we do. I could be wrong.
Now, you're into a different fandom that I have not touched. And, I've been doing this podcast. By the time your episode comes out, it'll have been a year. So, there's still a fandom I have not gone into. And you listed as one of your favorites, and that's Doctor Who.
Oh, yes. I did not see any classic Doctor Who. That's where, I didn't start. I did start with a revamp. But I actually really like that show, and I think I'm all caught up because I actually haven't been behind. You don't have to be behind when they show them a year, between or whatever. But that show I really like, although it's sometimes a bit fast talking for me. I have to stop and pay attention.
Uh-huh.
Because they talk so darn fast. I'm like, what did they say? Was it funny? I was like, did I just miss a joke? But yeah, so I was like. So watching it with Brady makes him kind of mad at me because he's like, Amber. He's like, they said this. And he could be playing on his phone doing something else and still know what they said. And I'm sitting there paying his close attention and I'll miss it. And I'm like, what the heck?
Now, do you have a favorite Doctor?
Oh, let me see. It's not Eccleston. I don't even think Tennant's my favorite. Probably Matt Smith, but I don't know. I kind of like Capaldi too, because he's gotten so much better. So maybe Capaldi so far, because he's making Matt Smith seem kind of immature.
Okay.
So yeah, I think I really like Capaldi now. He's starting to grow on me.
Now I've heard that is it Capaldi that's the current Doctor?
Yes.
And I've heard that he is leaving the role. Is that correct?
I did not know that. That's awful.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to break the news to you.
Aw, I didn't know that. I knew they were getting a new companion and stuff, but I didn't know he was leaving. Aw.
Yeah, it looks like I'm pulling it up now. It looks like he is going to be leaving Doctor Who at some point, and they're going to have to choose a new Doctor.
Which is always fun. It's always fun to see who they pick.
Now, are you in the camp that would like to have a female Doctor?
Not really. I read that, and I don't think it'll benefit much from a female Doctor. I prefer the male Doctor. He's more entertaining, I guess. I don't know. It's more, I don't know. But I thought about that, too, and I was like, I don't really think I want a female. Now, do I want him to be a ginger? Oh, yeah. Because he wants red hair, and he's always talking about red hair. So, yeah, do I want him to be ginger-colored? Yeah, that'd be awesome. But I don't necessarily want it to be a girl, though. I mean, I'm girl power and all that, but nah, not for the show.
Okay. Now, do you have a favorite companion?
Probably, no, Rose is not my favorite. My sister's in here eating, being quiet. She's like, Rose. I'm like, no, Rose is not my favorite. Probably, Amy. Yeah, I say Amelia, because her name is Amelia, but I think she goes by Amy. Redhead, Karen Gillian. I think she was my favorite.
Okay.
I did like her and Rory, although I hated Rory when he first came. I was like, oh no, you can't be there. And then he grew on me, and then of course now I watch him on Legends, so, That's all weird that all these shows tie in together and that I can pull them from each place.
Absolutely. Do you have a favorite either season or storyline for Doctor Who that you would recommend to somebody to watch?
Blink is always the best. That is the one that I saw out of order, even though I never do that. I hate watching stuff out of order because that's where my control freakness comes, or not my control, my OCD comes in because I like things to be in order. But Brady's like, you have to watch Blink, da-da-da-da-da. He goes, you don't have to know any of the backstory, and you don't. And that was one of my favorites, and the ones when they're in the library. And they have like the shadow demon things or whatever that kill everybody by just putting shadows on them or something. That's weird. But yeah, the Blink, of course, is top notch right there in the stuff when they're in the library. Because Doctor Who's awesome. If you like things with twists, I mean, you got to go through 12 episodes, and then you get to the end, and they all tie in to give you the big twist at the end that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't see that coming. What?
Well, now that I finished Iron Fist, I've got more time to start watching some other stuff.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I feel you. Brady did that too, and oh my gosh. He told me he tried to bump me from your podcast today because he wanted to rant about Iron Fist. I'm like, no, you're not allowed.
That's right. That's what I told him. I said Iron Fist is one of those hot potatoes right now that no one wants to touch.
Yeah. Yeah.
The amount of either controversy or people that are in the camp of love it or in the camp of hate it, and it is crazy.
Yeah, he definitely. I only watched a tiny bit of it when he was watching. I'm like, this is kind of boring, and I just like left. I'm like, because and plus he started when I sat in there, he was like on episode 2 or 3, and I'm like, I asked him stuff, and he's like, yeah, this is it. I'm like, oh, okay, and it still never drew me in, so I'm like, I'm all right.
Now you're a Marvel movie person, right?
I am. He has made me watch almost all of them. I think I had. Except for, I watched one of the Hulks. There's one of them I missed, but it wasn't a big deal that I missed that one.
There's only one Hulk that you need to watch, and even then it's not consequential.
Yeah, it's probably the one I've seen. It's probably the right one that I've seen. So I think I've seen them all.
Do you have a favorite, like, of the Avenger characters?
Oh, yes. I know who my favorite Avenger is because my sister and I get into arguments over this. My favorite Avenger character is Iron Man because I just like dark-headed, I don't know, I just like Iron Man. But yeah, so when Civil War came, everybody was against me because I liked Iron Man and everybody else liked Captain America. But
right, so you're on the wrong side of things.
Exactly. That's what everybody came back to me. I was like, yeah, I know, but you know what? I still like Iron Man. So and he ended up coming over, so it was all right. Yeah, I've got a really funny story about characters like that too. Oh my gosh.
Tell me, don't hold out on me.
I about had a conniption fit in the theater. What were we saying? Avengers 2?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was Avengers 2, Age of Ultron.
No, not that one. Wait.
I don't remember. It was okay. That part doesn't matter. But it was one of the. It might have been Civil War for all. It was Civil War actually. We were in the middle of now. Brady and I had to see it at 2 separate times because we did. Yeah, he had to see it in IMAX or whatever, and we didn't have a sitter, so I finally got one last minute. So he saw it by himself, and my sister and I went and saw it by ourselves. And there's older people, like, around us. Not really old, don't get me wrong. They're, like, maybe 40s or 50s. They're not really old, but they're older than me, probably my parents' age or so. We're sitting behind them, there's people around us, and different characters come on the screen. You know, you see Spider-Man, you see all these people. And then one of them comes who's not in costume yet. And so he's just came on. I know who it is, and you know who it is. But yeah. And so he just came on the screen, and I hear this husband and wife sitting in front of me, and the wife leans into the husband. She's like, I don't know who that is. Who is that? And her husband's like, oh, I think that's the Hulk. Da-da-da-da. I'm like, no. And they're like whispering real loud, you're not right. That's not who that is. I was like, that is Ant-Man. How could you not know who that is? I was like, quit telling your wife it's the Hulk. That's not who that is. My husband was so proud though. I was like, hey, well, because I had to see Ant-Man too, but it was not my favorite. But
Ant-Man was good.
Oh gosh, yeah. Everyone else, I was not overly big fan except for the end where they got to fight around the Thomas the Train set. So that's good. Because of course Wesley loves Thomas, so you know. But yeah, that was fun. I think she had to hold me back from being loud and saying, "You're not right. That's not who that is."
You whispered to me and you were like, "Ken, is that good?"
Yeah, I told her who it was, but everybody else around me. Yeah, I said it loud so they could hear me say who it was.
Oh my goodness. I had to deal with the same thing, like not the same thing, but when the first X-Men movie came out, I went with a friend in college, and number one, he's like flinching the entire time that like Wolverine is doing something on the screen, like cutting into people. I'm like, dude, like chill out. It's not graphic. They're not showing you anything.
Yeah.
And then he's like, he apparently he had never read an X-Men comic book or watched the cartoon show or anything. He's like, who's that person? What's their power? What's the story? I don't understand. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh man. I mean, I don't know a lot about certain comics either, but most of the time I make sure, and Brady does too, but it's because I want to see it. He doesn't really make me. I want to see him because I like those movies. But I was like, I got to know who everybody is. I'm like, I can't go into it blind and be like, I mean, yes, have I before? Yes. I have definitely gone in blind before, but I don't normally ask until we're done. Because I'm like, I'm not going to ruin the movie experience. So I'm like going to leave like, okay, tell me what's this up, or I'll go search it up myself. And be like, oh, that's cool. Now I get it. You know.
Right.
But yeah, I can't stand it when people get characters wrong. I'm like, you're not right. Stop guessing.
Now, I will say that I liked Ant-Man, but I really liked, the criminal heist type storyline. Plus, having Sam Wilson in there did not hurt at all. I really loved that.
That one just wasn't my favorite. I mean, I liked it okay. I don't know why, but it just was not one of my favorites. And Brady's always like, Ant-Man's the best, and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's horrible or anything, but in the rank there, that's definitely lower on my list.
Which movie are you looking forward to coming out on their current release schedule?
Kimmy, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Excellent.
That's definitely... Yeah, Baby Groot all the way, man. I loved the first one so much. And so much so that I'm sure years ago, during Halloween, I was shopping. Actually, it was a couple of years ago. I was on lunch break, and I was just looking around, and I said, oh, my gosh, I took a picture. I said, this is Wesley's Halloween outfit. And it was a Baby Groot. Or it was just Groot. I'm like a toddler. I was like, oh, my gosh, this is just adorable. And, it was just so... I just loved that movie. It was very funny and very entertaining. And the music was great, too.
Yes, the music was great. A great soundtrack. Can't wait to see what they have on this upcoming soundtrack.
I know, right? Totally.
Now, are you into the upcoming Thor movie? Is Thor one where you're kind of iffy on? Because I know for some people, Thor is not, like, their favorite.
Yeah, he is very iffy for me because I'm like, I liked one of them and then I wouldn't like the other one. So I always go and see him because I do always end up being better than I imagine they're going to be. But yeah, he's kind of up in the air for me because, I mean, I like his lines and his dialogue and everything because he is funny too, even in his like straight way. But I don't know, he's one that I have to see the preview to get excited about it. But just hearing about it normally doesn't do anything. So that's kind of where I am with Thor.
Is there a character that you want to have their own movie?
I can't really think of one per se that I would say not offhand. Shush, this is mine, not yours. She's sitting in here with me trying to be quiet and it's not working.
You keep talking to me.
I don't think I necessarily have one that I want to have their own movie who doesn't already have one. Shut up.
Okay.
Shut up, Kimmy. Not telling you to shut up, David. I'm telling her to shut up. She's looking at me funny.
That's okay.
I haven't seen anything.
You're a fan of a certain director and writer, and I'm the same way. And I have much love for this person, Joss Whedon.
Yes.
And I remember that, in college I think it was season 3 or season 4. I can't remember what it was. And I lived with somebody that I had to be like, on Tuesday nights, like, if you're coming home, you got to be quiet. I'm watching my show.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was not into Buffy or Angel at the time.
That's sad.
S. Brady Calhoun.
No!
Oh, you told her a secret. Now she's going to go get him. That is awesome.
That was a show that he would plop down on the couch for occasionally and check out, but it wasn't something that he was into.
He's the one that turned me on to that. Because he's like, oh, you'll like this, and da-da-da-da-da. It's about a teenage girl, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. He above all else should know, if you're watching a show, that you got to be quiet and, like, not talk during it.
Now, that is also during the time that, there was actual phones in the wall and answering machines. And I used to tell people not to bother calling me.
Like,
Don't
don't call me, I'm not going to answer.
Yep, absolutely. Now, do you have a favorite of the Joss Whedon shows?
Ooh.
Not Angel, though.
No, Angel's not my favorite.
Not Firefly.
No. Firefly was good, but it's not my favorite. It probably is Buffy, because I really liked Buffy. I really did like Buffy. I like some of Angel's, but Angel was a little dark for me, or a little too dark humor. It got better towards, like, 5th season. But
right at the end, it got better. Right at the end.
I was like, okay, because gosh, season 1 was just for me. I had to struggle to get through it. I was like, man, this is boring. And it did get progressively better. But Brady was always ahead of it. Was like or not ahead of it, but he'd already seen it all. And so by the time I got to watch, he goes, yeah, the finale's like, he was like, I loved the finale. It was awesome. I like the last minute of the show. I'm like, shut up, Brady. I was like, I want to see it myself. I was like, quit telling me stuff.
Who's your favorite character?
Oh, no, that one's, oh.
An Angel?
And Buffy or Angel?
Buffy or Angel. And listen, it's not like choosing kid. You got Wesley, so it's not like you're choosing between kids here like I get to do when there's like, oh, who's your favorite kid? I'm like, oh, let me think on like who's been the nicest to me today.
And then, she has to. Kimmy was thinking about who she had to relate Brady's friends, and she's like, "Is he the one that has Xander and Willow?" I said, "Yes, honey." And
that's me.
So she's like, "That's so cool." So yeah, she's a fan girl over here. I want to say, no, Cordelia's not my favorite. I actually want to say that I think Xander is my favorite.
Okay. Because
he's goofy and he's really funny, but he's the one that he's really powerful because he talked Dark Willow down by just talking to her, by saying how much he loved her, and that's why he gets through to everybody. He just shares what they need to hear. He's the heart. I like it. Shut up, Kimmy. But yeah, I really like him.
Okay.
I think he's my favorite. Not even Buffy, Not even Buffy. I think Willow's my favorite. Yeah, well.
Who did you like Xander paired with as far as relationships go?
I think Anya is the best because they make the best duo to me. I think they were really sweet together because they were just so odd.
Definitely not him and Cordy.
Yeah, I think I liked him and Anya.
No, it was definitely him.
Yeah, you can tell we turned her on to that too.
Did you ever want Xander and Buffy to get together?
Yes, and when they had that weird moment, and now I read comics afterward.
Yep.
And they had some kind of weird twisted thing. I was like, whoa, what is this? I was like, this is different. I kind of did want them to get together. I was like, that would be sweet if they got together. Because he really loved her, like, from the beginning. I was like, he always had a thing for her. So, yeah, so when they had some kind of weird thing in the comic, I was like, this is different. It's like, weird.
Right. I know that in season 7, because I was reading an interview recently, they had approached both of them and said, we might put you guys together, and we might not. We'll see what happens. And they never did, and they went with the Buffy and Spike route.
Which I did like them together. I was a fan of Buffy and Spike. Yeah. Unfortunately, I was a fan of that.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. But I would have liked her with Xander, too, so I probably would have preferred her with Xander over Spike. But I definitely preferred her with Spike over Angel, so.
Who was your favorite bad guy?
Oh, man. Bad guys. No, Sweet wasn't my favorite.
Bad guys, big bad, whichever, like, Dark Willow.
Glory wasn't my favorite either. Kimmy keeps shouting out bads. I don't know. I like Glory, but I don't think she was my favorite. That one's hard. Maybe the guys in Hush were really creepy, but I still don't know if they were my favorite either. I don't really know if I have a big bad favorite. Well, okay, I did. Yeah, there we go. I did kind of like Nathan Fillion as the creature. Only because I like Nathan Fillion, I think, but but I kind of liked him. I don't know if he was my favorite, but he's up there in ones that I preferred.
So as far as Buffy goes, did you have a favorite season? Was there one season that made you love the show more than any other season?
Well, I was a big fan of season 6. Of course, because I liked the musical, and I liked other things in there too. Because I was a fan of the spell Willow put on everybody to make them forget. That's one of my favorite episodes. And then when she starts to work at the Double Meat Palace and all, and she gets with Spike. I think I just like that season because it's so memorable. That I remember a lot of things about it. So
yeah, it's a good season.
Yeah, that one sticks out for me.
Are you not as big a fan of, say, Angel as opposed to Buffy? Or did you like Angel and watch it and enjoy it? I did watch it and enjoy it most of the time, but I definitely preferred Buffy over Angel. But I did watch it because I did like the characters in Angel too, but I felt theirs was like the same, it was like going in the same loop. Like when they got in the hotel, I was like, this happened, and it's like, we just had to like rotate different, like bad things to happen in the episode. Like, okay, we're at the hotel, they do this, something bad happens, we gotta go do, and it got kind of repetitive until it like broke free from it. And I was like, okay, and then it did get better. Like I said, I was a big fan of season 5 because they got out of their element and went somewhere else. Right.
And did something different. So I was like, okay, I like that better.
Okay. And are you a fan of Firefly?
I am. I'm a big fan of Firefly.
And you told me before we started recording that you watched it movie first and then TV show second.
Yes, so out of order. I had to blame Brady for that because he's like, we need to go see Serenity. I'm like, I don't know what this is about. I'm like, I don't know this show. I was like, yeah. And then he's like, it's about, what did he tell me? I don't remember. Pirates in space or something, because I know that's the big tagline or something. So I'm like, okay, because I didn't know. And so I start watching it, and I was like, this is really very interesting. And I was like, this is kind of cool. And I was like, what's the show called again? And he's like, Firefly, we'll go get it. I think we bought it not long after that and then had to watch it. And I was like, this is so cool. I was like, I like it.
That's awesome. I like that you watched it out of order.
Yeah, but that's so messed up for me. But I definitely remember it though, because I know I watched it flippy floppy.
Do you have a favorite character from the show?
Ooh, from Firefly? I really liked River, but I liked Kaylee too. Maybe Wash. Because Wash, I don't know. Something about him. I don't know. Something about him, I remembered him, and he was, I don't even have an adjective for him, but I know I liked him. I can't find the right words for right. Because I like that scene. They come in and he's playing with dinosaurs and stuff.
That's right.
At the control panel, he's like, rah, 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 like this. I'm like, you're just awesome, dude. I was like, you're just so cool.
Like any normal pilot would do.
Exactly. You're bored.
Play with your dinosaurs.
Yeah, you got to play with something.
That's awesome. When I knew Brady back in high school and college, he had bookshelves full of comic books.
Yeah. No, it hasn't changed much. I think he did get rid of a lot.
Are you into comics too?
Not really. No, not really. I only had a few that I would read. I had to get the Buffy omnibuses or omnibi, however you call the plural. I had to get those, and I got an Angel one and a Spike one, and I got into the Walking Dead comic.
Okay.
I'm so not caught up on at all, and I started to read some of the Preacher comic because, it being on AMC and all, but I haven't really gotten through that one either because it's very, very, very vulgar and
right.
just weird. But no, he's definitely got me beat on comics. I would read the occasional. I'm a fan of the Usagi Yojimbo ones. I really liked those.
Okay.
So I was a big fan, but of course we don't get a lot of those. And the first one, I think, the first comic he ever had me read was Bone.
Yes, I believe he had me read that one as well.
And that one was really good. I really liked Bone. And of course we had a huge book of it, I'm sure it was another omnibus, huge thing of it. And I remember reading it, and it was really good. And it didn't take me that long to finish reading it but that was one that I picked up that I really liked.
Did he make you read Cerberus?
No, I know. I think he still has some around here. I don't remember what that one's about, but he probably told me. And he kept wanting me to read all sorts of things. I can't remember what the most recent one was. I did read some of it, but I can't remember what it was called now. If he was in here, he'd tell me, but I don't remember. It's a weird looking guy that has got goggles on his face or something, and he's futuristic but I can't remember the name of it to save my life. But he has the comics on our bookshelf because he kept trying to make me read them. I want to say it's something man, but it's like a regular person who wears weird looking goggles on his face.
I don't know.
I don't either. I just can't remember.
I don't know. I've been out of the comic game so long. I don't read comics that much anymore.
Yeah, see, I don't read them either. So
they're too expensive. I wait for the trades if I'm going to get something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Brady, I think, goes every week or every 2 weeks to get something. Not a lot. Definitely not as lot as he's gotten in the past because his collection has gone way down. But
oh my goodness, I remember the days where it's going to the comic book shop and you'd fill out that index card for what comics you'd want pulled, and I'd have 2 index cards of comics that I want pulled.
Wow.
And back before it was before bills were really super bill, you got to pay all these different bills, and you're paying for all sorts of stuff, and you have to account for things. It's yes, I'll throw my money at comic books.
Yeah.
Now I hem and haw over spending $9 on a trade paperback.
Yeah, I think Brady holds off as much as he can because he's I gotta go to the comic store. I'm seriously? He goes, they have stuff pulled for me. I have to go get some of it, and I'm I was okay. Oh, go ahead.
I remember this one comic store. I don't know if it was one local here in Orlando or if it was one somewhere in Central Florida. They had posted this video about why comic book stores lose money, and they were let me show you this person's pull box. And it had, I think it's $200 or $300 worth of comics in it. And they're this is just inventory that we're not moving, but yet we're keeping because we're waiting for you to come in.
Oh, wow.
Please, people, if you have a pull list, come in every so often and either buy the comics or tell us that you don't want them.
Well, there you go. Well, at least it makes sense now why he says he has to go and get the stuff out of his pool column. So that's good. Because he really doesn't go that much anymore. I want to say he does. And the stuff he does get is so random and far and in between. I'm where did this come from? It's and especially when he goes to sell stuff, and then I'll get curious. I'll see covers and because he had Chew, I think is one of his collections, and I'm what is this about? And I think he told me I don't remember cannibals or something. I'm what? And I don't remember. It may have not been that. I honestly don't remember. Something about eating, but I'm you have the weirdest stuff, and it's he has to put his toe in everything, or he was here, I want to try this and that, and see if that's any good. I'm dude, find a cheap way to do that.
Find a cheap way.
Yeah, and not that there is one, but it'd be nice if we could.
Wait like 10 years and then
Exactly.
find them. Find them for a quarter.
For real.
So is there a fandom that we haven't talked about that you are into or that you'd recommend to people that you want them to check out?
Sherlock is a good show to watch.
Okay.
I wasn't a fan to begin with, but it's for people who like very intricate, that are like very detail oriented and stuff. It's a nice show to watch because he thinks of things from like every possible angle. And it's kind of cool to watch how he thinks about it and how he comes to the conclusion and how what's really happening. Like the most recent one we saw was really good, and so that's a show that I really liked, along with Doctor Who, of course. Well, Walking Dead I can give or take. Walking Dead I'm not gonna overly recommend because it's kind of split downhill.
Okay.
Though the books that you recommended, the Kevin Hearn books, the Iron Druid
Chronicles.
I've been reading Hounded, the first one, because I've had some issues. I have to read it on my phone, so it's so much slower. But I really liked those. I'm really a big fan of his writing.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I think I read like the first page and I was like, wow, this is interesting. I was like, okay, he's got me hooked. And so I'm like going through reading and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading. And I'm like, I have to do it on my phone, so I don't get to go very far. And with, a 5-year-old screaming and running around, but you've got 3 kids, so you definitely know.
Oh yeah.
Definitely know where that goes. You gotta find that time to go be quiet and read, which doesn't happen very often.
No, not at all.
No, but those are really good, and I like the Irish roots. Like, was very granted. I don't know how to say any of those names. Like,
right, that's why he's got the pronunciation
I know,
right in
and
there.
I looked at it, and I'm like, I still don't know how to say these names. I said it right the first time, and then when I go back to go read it, I'm like, yeah, I know I'm butchering this, but at least I'm reading it to myself. So
exactly.
So I'm not reading it to anybody, so they don't care how I say it.
Michelle just finished Hounded. Either I think it's yesterday or the day before.
It's a really good.
So she's moved on to book 2 now.
I think Brady finished it quickly too. And he's like, it was a good book, and I don't know if he started the second one because gosh, he reads like everything under the sun. He has to read everything on the internet like right now. So he knows way more things than I do about stuff. Because he's like, did you hear this? I'm like, no. I was like,
yeah, that's the same way I am. I ask Michelle all the time. I'm like, did you hear this? Did you see this? Oh, okay. Let me tell you about it really quick.
Brady won't even do that. He'll just be like, oh yeah, and then he'll leave it there. And I'm like, are you gonna tell me? And he's like, do you care? And I'm like, yeah, sorta. You mentioned it to me now. I was like, you might as well tell me something.
So does your sister have anything to add
to this? Do you have anything to add, Kimberly? Not that much. Not that much, Miss Annoying Ones. Oh my gosh. I don't watch that show. No, I didn't. Yes, but not a lot of people, I'm sure, are into that one. She got me onto Vampire Diaries, of course. It's sad to say, but I've actually kind of liked it. But she's, yeah. Go ahead.
I had issues with Vampire Diaries, and here's my issue. They canceled Angel and replaced it with the Vampire Diaries.
That is kind of messed up there. Kimmy said she just lost so much respect for Vampire Diaries. She did get out of it, and I started it, and I don't know. I just like the characters in it. And they die, and they don't stay dead, so.
No, honey, that's Supernatural.
Well, yeah, the Supernatural is hers. I've only seen one season of it. That's her big season, her big show, is Supernatural.
Okay.
So she loves it and recommends it to everybody because she loves it. She loves that show.
I've only seen a few episodes, and they were the ones that had Felicia Day in it because I love her.
Felicia Day is a redhead, babe. You didn't see her. She was in. I know you. Can't tell her. Yeah, she was in Buffy. She was one of the potentials, babe.
Yep, way back in the day.
Yep, she was a potential. She was the only redhead potential, baby doll. She knows who she is. She just doesn't. But she knows.
I'm not good with actor
That's true. She's really bad. I'm the one that can remember people. We can go to the movies with somebody. They'll be like, isn't that so-and-so? I'm like, no, it's this person. Yes, I know that because I'm a crazy person. And I know what actor's name and what movie they were in. And
well, I think that's all that we got time for right now, unless there's something else that is really in your mind and you want to shout it out.
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything else. I think we covered everything.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your evening with your precious hours, sans child.
I feel you. Yes.
To record this.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I had fun.
I'm glad I'll have to get you and Brady on together.
Oh, my gosh.
For both of you to talk back and forth.
That does remind me of something, actually. One last thing that does remind me. One time, a coworker of Brady's had Brady read, I don't remember what it was called, and I still can't. It was some new set that they were doing of comics, like the, I think it was DC. It was some new thing they were doing. They were calling it the new, I still can't think of what it's called.
The New 52?
Yes, that.
Okay.
And so he had all these random comics, and we had read them, and like I said, this was years ago. And he would read one, and he'd give me one to read. And then I would make comments about it because I knew nothing about it. And he told them to his coworker, who laughed at our back and forth because I had no clue what I was talking about and kept making funny comments that Brady would then go message to somebody or put on social media somewhere. And I was like, well, at least I get, a kick out of stuff. Because I would just say whatever came to mind. So, yeah, putting us on together would be kind of funny because we would just go back and forth.
That'll have to be a future episode.
Oh, he totally said he would write a book about it or write something up because we were just so weird together. Oh, it was just too funny.
Well, thank you for taking the time out.
No problem.
And we'll have to get together again.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.